Hey, Alicia Novin here, and despite needing a haircut really badly, instead I wanted to make a video on 5 things that you should mention to a hiring manager when they're interviewing you. So here we go. So a lot of the conversation that you'll have with a hiring manager will be guided by them. But there are some things that you want to work into the conversation that will help them get a better sense of who you are and what you're trying to do. So let's dive right in. When you're giving your introduction about yourself, one of the things you want to mention is what got you into tech. Maybe you've taken a boot camp recently and you're changing careers, or maybe you went the traditional route and you got a comp sci degree or a software engineering degree. Whatever it was, talk about that pivotal moment or something that just drove you into pursuing a technology career. It'll give them a better sense of what drives you and how you make decisions. It'll give them a sense of your personality. And so it's an important and basic one that you always want to make sure you cover. You never want the conversation to end without you having spoken at least about one significant win that you've had. And that can be in a professional setting, it can be on a personal project, or something that you did in school. But you want to let the hiring manager know about one of your accomplishments, at least one. And don't just tell them about the accomplishment, explain for them why it was an accomplishment. Explain the significance around it. What you want to leave them with a sense of is how you measure success and then how you track yourself against that success metric. If it doesn't come up as part of the conversation, one thing that you want to explain is why you are either changing jobs or what you're looking for in your career. And those might sound like 2 different questions, but when you're either going through your work experience or if you're new in your career, you want to explain what is the thing that is driving you to ultimately make the choices that you are making. And so that's not quite tied to, I worked at this place and this is why I left. You want to explain the why in terms of what you're ultimately trying to achieve in your career. So I was looking for this, or they couldn't offer me this type of experience in this area. That'll give the hiring manager a much better sense of 1, what you're looking for, and 2, they'll be able to get a better sense of what they need to provide to you so that they can make sure that they can retain you on their team. A common question you'll hear from a hiring manager would be something like, how are the ways in which you invest in yourself, or how do you help yourself grow, or how do you stay current? And you don't ever just want to answer that question when that question is asked. As you talk about your experience, you always want to bring to the surface ways in which you research, ways in which you are pushing yourself to grow, even when you're talking about some experience that you had at a last company or on a project that you were working on. You want to explain that you're continuously looking for growth and you're continuously fueling your passion by doing that extra work and it not just being about diving right in. So don't wait for that question. Find other areas where you can talk about how you're continuously pushing yourself and you're continuously researching. So think about a connect the dots picture for a second. Long gone are the days where one person stays for their entire career at one company. The national average, I think, is still 18 to 24 months before someone moves jobs, changes companies. And because of that, it's very easy to see our experience as little dots on a piece of paper and not really seeing how they're connected to one another. But when you think of things in terms of a career narrative, you start to actually connect each thing to each other to form a much better picture of who you are and what you're trying to accomplish. So if you think about the other things that I've covered in this in terms of what got you into tech and how you measure success and how you track yourself against that metric and what you're ultimately looking for in your career and how you fuel your own growth, those are all part of a larger narrative that you want to explain to the hiring manager. Now, if they take an approach where they're highly Q&A, that's okay, because you can still come back to that sense of a narrative, and the better you know your own narrative, the better you'll be able to answer those questions. And even if you're starting off your career and so you don't really have too much in terms of that narrative, focus on the projects that you've taken on, whether personal or whether in your coursework, and even things that led up to that moment, up to the pursuit. So when you were younger, what were aspects that you can draw from in terms of your personality, in terms of how you would answer those kinds of things if they were technical projects. So maybe you had a significant win that is not technically related at all, but it does still call out who you are as a person and how you measure success. Those are ways in which you can build a larger narrative and let the hiring manager have a better sense of who you are. So those are the 5 things to mention in an interview to a hiring manager. I have to go get my haircut, so I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful to you. I also run a podcast called Increments, where we focus on our growth overall and create the space for thinking about how we want to grow in our careers. I hope you'll check it out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and it's at increments.dev as well. Thanks a lot.